So now we move to our featured presentation, and I'd like to introduce our speaker today, Mr. Marshall Johnson. Marshall is a vice president of the National Audubon Society, and he's done some actually pioneering work with farmers and ranchers and retailers with the grasslands and bringing these folks together and putting together the Audubon Conservation Ranching Program, and they've enrolled over 2 million acres across 60 ranches. And so I'm gonna let Marshall take it away and tell you his story. So Marshall.
Thanks a lot. It's so great to be with you. I think I gave a little, or was part of a panel discussion at a National Audubon board meeting, and had an opportunity to meet Doug Chang, and we've been talking about this for actually a year now, or a little bit less than a year, and would have originally loved to be with you in person, but I appreciate that we can make the best of it and meet virtually. As mentioned, my name is Marshall Johnson. I've been with the National Audubon Society for 12 years, working in North Dakota. I began my work as an outreach coordinator, supporting chapters in the Dakotas, both Dakotas and Western Minnesota, and have then moved to the state director role, regional director for the Dakotas. And now I work in that role, as well as lead the Conservation Ranching Initiative nationwide. Which means I don't have a lot of hobby time or a lot of me time. But this work for me has always been a passion project. It's always been something that I've felt growing up in Texas and in California. I've always, the Western Texas grasslands, even as a kid, really appealed to me. And I kind of lost track of that until I found myself my senior year as a business student in Minnesota, in a prairie chicken blind. And I remembered how much I love grasslands and the subtleties of grasslands, and of course the songstresses and troubadours of the skies are grassland songbirds. And the project that I want to talk to you about today, I consider this, we do a lot of different projects and programs to support grassland conservation, and we really can't do enough grassland conservation given what we've seen take place in this ecosystem here in North America, and I'll touch on that in a little bit. But what we recognized 8 years or so ago was that what we were doing in terms of grassland conservation. Can everyone see my screen pretty well? Yay. What we were doing in terms of grassland conservation wasn't working. We weren't, the scale of grassland loss had greatly exceeded the scale and pace of grassland conservation. And this is North America's most ubiquitous native ecosystem, once covering 2/3 or more of North America. And we've lost about 55 to 60% of this ecosystem. And one thing I want to, before I kind of walk through the background and current status of Audubon's raised on bird friendly land certification, one thing I want to make synonymous for you: whenever I mention grasslands, I'm mentioning grassland birds, but I'm also mentioning access to clean water in the lower 48. The grassland ecosystem in our rivers, streams, and tributaries are closely connected. And so as we lose grassland ecosystem, we also, our rivers, streams, and tributaries are greatly affected, both in the amount of flow that they have available because of the grassland's ability to take and store and slowly discharge water, and also the amount of toxicity in our rivers, streams, tributaries, and clean water aquifers. Grasslands naturally remove and process toxins and chemicals out of our rivers, streams, and tributaries. And so when I mention grasslands, I'm mentioning grassland birds, I'm mentioning clean water. I'm also talking about the ability of grasslands to store carbon out of the atmosphere, to take carbon out of the atmosphere, which they do naturally. And I'm equally speaking to our insect population and our pollinators. Where you find grasslands, you find pollinators because of the forbs and the wildflowers that are the backbone of pollinator habitat. That's why North and South Dakota has a lot of rich mixed grass prairie still left on the landscape. It's also number one and number two in terms of